Ladies and gentlemen, do you think there is a science that can be applied to travel to make it more sustainable? Can we seamlessly connect the left and right sides of our brains to reduce our carbon footprint? To answer all of these questions, we are really pleased to introduce Ms. Milena S. Nikolova, PhD, founder of Behaviour-Smart, who has traveled all the way from Sofia, Bulgaria, to be with us today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, yes, let's hear it for her. Now, Ms. Milena Nikolova is a leading expert in applying insights about human behavior to solutions in sustainability and travel. Her passion is in exploring ways in which behavior-smart tactics can enhance the positive impacts of travel for people, companies, and places. She looks at new traveler consumption patterns, making sustainability effortless and non-negotiable, and making travel impactful for people and places. And she's also the author of the first book that explores the potential of applying knowledge from behavioral sciences to strategic issues in the travel industry. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would urge you to please join me in welcoming with a huge round of applause Ms. Milena Nikolova, speaking on decoding and reshaping consumer behavior.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, and a big thank you for making me part of one of the most inspiring experiences I've been to. India has always held a very special place in my heart. I was very, very little when my father made his first trip to India, and I have some of the most distinct memories from the stories that he told. It was just 2 years ago when I first came to India, and now I'm so excited to be back and hopefully to add values to some of the fantastic initiatives, ideas that you have shared today. I'm going home with so much inspiration and so many stories that I will use in my talks. So, what I'm going to talk to you about is human behavior. And several of the speeches we already heard today alluded to the fact that there's a treasure in going back to human and really looking at what we know about the human heart and the human mind. And what I would like to do is actually build on that and hopefully convince you that not only there's a treasure there, but there's actually a great opportunity to take that knowledge and help us achieve some of the inspiring ideas that we have and some of the inevitable transitions that we need to be making in order to allow the world to continue traveling, exploring, and having phenomenal experiences when visiting India and the many other wonderful places around the world, but at the same time doing it in a way that enhances places and leaves them better, not worse before that. So, travel is about people. It's about connecting people to other people and connecting people to other places. It is at the core of why we embark on a journey. We travel in order to connect through our senses to the local stories, to the local people, to the local taste, the local smells, the local sounds. What we know about human behavior and what happens in our hearts and minds when we travel is used in smart ways to enhance experiences. What we know about human psychology helps us understand why the way or the sequence of episodes during a journey can matter to the emotional makeup and the memories that we take home. What we know about human behavior helps us know that the biggest asset that experiences create are the memories that we take home, that we relive, and that we retell and reshare with our friends. Now, human psychology gives us enough insights to actually do design improvements of travel experiences that power, that value, the memories even more. So we know that designing and delivering experiences that contain peak moments can be one of the most powerful ways to ensure that the memories that visitors coming here will take home and that they will stay longer than from experiences that they have generated elsewhere. We also know from human psychology that what happens at the end of an experience can be more powerful than many of the things that happen during the experience, because it will stay longer in people's memory. We also know that some of the stories they talk about after the experience is even over can modify what they remember about the experience. It can make that experience more precious. So, in essence, giving people the opportunity to tell more stories actually makes that experience more valuable for them. It keeps it longer in their mind. So, what we know about human nature allows us to make travel and to make travel experiences more valuable, more impactful for the traveler, for the human being. Now, I want to build on that. Travel is fantastic. It creates memories, it creates experiences that serve as basis for stories and connecting people and people to places. But we also have a challenge. As travel opportunities or the opportunities to travel are growing, the footprint that this produces, as we just noted, is growing beyond the limits of what we can handle. Now, this, of course, is not new. We've known that for some time. The challenge is that we have been trying to bring sustainability into the way that we do travel, but somehow it hasn't worked. We all know that we need to transition to models of operating the industry that support the growth that is happening and that we know is part of the wonderful democratization of the travel industry. But at the same time, somehow, our ability to make sustainability part of the way that we do tourism has escaped us. So it still remains elusive. So my proposition to you is that the same way that we use insights about human psychology to make travel more powerful, to make experiences more memory worth, and to keep the stories and the emotions in people's minds and hearts longer, can actually help us to make sustainability part of the norm, part of the way we travel, part of the way we do business when we welcome guests, and really to support growth while also making sure that travel enhances our places rather than damage them. Part of using human psychology when we think about travel and making it better is to understand why sustainability is so difficult. So I'm going to start with a few words about what behavioral science tells us about travelers' mind and their heart, and how that explains why sustainability has been so elusive for us. The first thing we need to know is that when they embark on a journey, travelers release controls. So think about it, the same way that when you go on your holiday, you are probably not sticking to the strict healthy diet that you are sticking to when you're at home and you have your daily routine. The same way that you might skip your morning run or your morning exercise because you're on holiday, the same ways we really release other controls, including responsible decision-making. So even if at home we're very diligent about making sure that we don't waste any food, or we don't use any single-use plastic bottles and bags and so on, when we travel, we actually release those controls. There's scientific studies that prove that even people who are extremely diligent about sustainability practices at home would not take them and repeat these habits when they're on holiday unless it's made super easy and almost automated for them. So when we travel, we release controls. By design, we set ourselves in a mindset and mode of behavior that is based on leaving worries behind. So even as we see, what Hjortur mentioned, an increased level of awareness across societies that the climate crisis is here, there is a sustainability crisis, people might worry about it and be proactive in daily life. But when they go on holiday, they really crave leaving worries behind. And as we see people in a mode of behavior which is associated with relaxation, enjoyment, where all their psychological resources are devoted to maximizing the experience, to creating more memories that they're going to take home, to capturing most of the wealth of the destination through all of their senses, we ask them for hardship, responsibility, or sacrifice. Yes, of course, in the context of the potential future that we're looking at, it certainly feels as something that we are obliged to do. But also, if we accept the mindset and the mode of thinking and feeling that travelers in, it really feels like a sacrifice, and very often, they're simply not ready to do it. So what happens is that the way that we have approaching sustainability so far has fueled what we refer to as the intention-action gap. More and more people intend to be responsible, they want to be responsible, and when they're asked, they recognize that it's important to be making responsible choices. But when they travel, this precious time of the year, when you are not working, you're enjoying time with your close ones, you are enjoying being in a different place, being relaxed, reconnecting with nature, culture, learning something new, this is when you actually do not want to prioritize being responsible. So while you say that, yes, you think this is important and you think everybody should do it, you actually do not do it during your precious holiday. So this is what we know about human behavior or about traveler mindsets from behavioral science, and what explains why the way that we have been approaching sustainability has fueled that intention-action gap, which now is the talk of our industry. What can we do about it? Well, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a proposed answer to that question. So the same way that we use insights from behavioral sciences to understand why it has been so difficult for sustainability to work and why the approaches that we have used so far are not as effective as we have hoped, there are ways to put that knowledge to work in a way that helps us to actually make sustainability more likely or non-negotiable. So, in essence, what we have been doing so far is trying to present sustainability in a way that feels to the traveler and their behavioral mode as if they're swimming or trying to swim upstream in a river with a very, very strong current. But if we actually use the insights that behavioral science has already generated, we can actually weave in sustainability in a way that makes the traveler feel as if it's going with the flow. So staying with the same river analogy, I just want to illustrate what I mean here. In general, behavior and many of the decisions that we end up making when we are traveling, when we are talking about an experience that extends over a longer period of time, over several days, we are making multitude of choices. And many of these choices are steered by the way that the choice sets are designed, by the way that decisions are presented to us. So it's almost like a riverbed. So if the riverbed goes a little bit to the right, then the water will go a little bit to the right. If there's a certain section of the river where the riverbed spreads, the water will slow down and take longer to go through that section. Behavior human behavior is very much the same way. So there's two key principles that we can use in order to make sustainable behavior flow the same way that it flows in a riverbed. The first one is to make sustainability effortless, to make it easy, to make it feel as if it's going with the flow. And then the second is actually, wherever that's possible, is to make sustainability enjoyable, to make it exciting, to make travelers opt for it, not because it's the right thing to do, but because it's part of the memory creation. So, how can we do that? I'm going to give you just a few very simple illustrations to just mark the practicality of the way that these principles can be executed. Even though there are thousands of ways, I'll just refer to several of them. So, one of the easiest samples or examples to give is towel changing. People do not really think that much about decisions such as towel changing or whether they're going to drink water from a plastic bottle or a glass bottle. So what we know from behavioral science is that when people are faced with a relatively insignificant choice, such as whether I'm going to reuse tonight the same towel that I used last night, or I'm going to use a new one, the majority of the people will go with whatever is set as the default option. Because when I am visiting here, I have much better things to worry about that relate to having a more powerful experience and having more to tell my children and my husband when I go home. So in that sense, I don't spend any of my psychological resources thinking about things that I don't really have to think about and that are not going to matter for my experiences, such as towel changing. So just changing default options can be extremely powerful in that case. So simply, instead of asking people to decide whether they want to hang their towel or take some certain action, when this is not a decision that's not important for them, change default options. By default, we don't change towels. If you really insist on a change, of course, we will immediately respond. Just by flipping default options, you essentially move the majority from not reusing their towels to reusing their towels. Now, of course, this is a very small example, although many of you who are in the hospitality industry know that washing is actually a bigger spender of water than the showers of your guests, for example. But there's also tons of such choices that travelers make on their journey that they don't really care about, but that end up leaving a footprint on our destination and our business. So, changing default options for decisions that are not as important and involving for travelers is extremely, extremely powerful. This builds on the wonderful talk that we heard this morning from Chef Thomas, and just marks the endless opportunities that are out there with encouraging travelers to spend more on local food. Every destination wants to see increase in local spending, and specifically on local food, because it's not only a way to channel more spend and more economic benefits to local producers, to farmers, and so on. It's also environmentally more sustainable. You have a lower carbon footprint because you rely less on important products. And you also align with seasonality. So making it, in many cases, encouraging that demand for local options is a matter of presenting it as a super exciting, enjoyable part of the experience, just as we heard several examples this morning, and enabling guests to choose and opt for that, not because it's the right thing to do, but because they feel that this is going to be part of the memories they're going to be coming back to with their stories after that. It's sometimes just a matter of making it very easy. If I'm coming here, I very often don't go for a local option, simply because I don't know what's in season, what's local, and very often because I actually don't know what certain names mean, or I don't know how to pronounce them. you would be surprised how many people do not order something local simply because they don't know how to. So doing small things in the way that you present the local option, in the way that you recommend it, that makes it very easy for people to opt for that and to choose it, to say it, can really make a big difference. It's not effort intensive, it doesn't require a huge investment, it can make a big difference because it basically lowers a barrier that keeps the riverbed in the right direction. The same goes for low footprint experiences. If we want travelers to engage in activities and experiences which enhance what they're going to take home in their hearts and minds, but doesn't leave any footprint on our nature, then we need to make sure that we describe these experiences in an emotional, exciting, fun way, so that people want to engage in them because they can't imagine leaving India without doing that, not because it's the way to avoid some of the tragic scenarios that might be ahead of us. Similarly, making sustainable choices fun, but non-negotiable. So all of us here are now not thinking about plastic bottles simply because the way that the context is set up presents us with the easy way of just pouring water from glass bottles. The same thing can be scaled and multiplied across different businesses in the industry, across destinations. What if we make sure that everybody arriving to India or any of the regional destinations has a water bottle with them and knows where to refill that water bottle? And not only do they have that, which will make it super easy for them to engage in the right behavior, what if these water bottles are colorful and exciting and locally crafted, and they actually carry the spirit and the style of the rich local culture? Then we are also adding fun, but in essence, incorporating the sustainable choice in the design and making it non-negotiable. The traveler does not have the say. You have the say as to whether you want to see more waste or negative footprint on your place. So you can just do it in a way that supports the riverbed, but still keeps the memories and the experiences going. Similarly, if we don't want to see further waste, what if all hotels and homestays present guests the same way that they provide other accessories or presents with a shopping bag they can use while they're around to buy the arts and crafts and souvenirs they're going to take home, and then to leave that. And that way, we present that single-use packaging and bags are just not the norm here, and we make it very easy for travelers to do that. So there are thousands of examples of such small tweaks that we can do to support the riverbed going in the right direction, while not in any way damaging the memories and the experience that travelers will take home. In fact, in many cases, we have the opportunity to enhance them further, as the examples with food, for example, illustrated. And in addition to these being relatively easy steps that can make a big difference, there's something else very powerful that's happening here. When we begin introducing such tweaks in the design of the experience, in order to make it easy and fun for travelers to travel in a sustainable manner, we're changing the norm of behavior. We're making sustainability part of the design. And because we are providing the riverbed for sustainable behavior, this then becomes much less about making sure that you're attracting the right traveler, and much more about creating the riverbed for most travelers to be the right travelers. So I hope that I have sparked your interest in borrowing from the knowledge that behavioral science has generated to utilize that and really make sustainability the way that we do business, and the way that can leave a deeper mark in people's hearts and minds, but not on our culture, not on our nature, and not on our places. Behavior can change, and travel can be sustainable. Thank you so much, and I hope that I've shared something exciting for you to take home.